for us to share in time together. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to dialogue. That's what we're going to do today. I got some stuff to talk about. I hope you got some stuff to talk about. And so I'm just going to jump right. Wait, before I jump right on in it, I want to get a picture first because I know sometimes everybody kind of jumps off. So if you don't want your face in the camera, if you could, take your face off the screen, and then I'm just going to take a picture really quick. All right, that works for me. Thank you guys so much. The other part that's happening for me is the Me Project, which I am the CEO and founder of. We are actually launching this weekend as well. So it is the Me Project LLC. And so we are launching this weekend. I've been coming before Collaborative for Children and sharing in the presentations and sharing space and time, but the business is actually gonna launch, doing all of that. Coming on Saturday, the 17th. So if you haven't already linked up with me via Facebook, please do that. There will be live trainings going on or just different motivational things to kind of keep us all invigorated and going. So I'm hoping we can connect, and I'll kind of share that information towards the end of the training as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Okay. Oh, wait, this one. All right, so holding on to your why. I don't know about y'all, but for a long time, like when people used to be like, what's your why? Like I used to feel like I had to have this whole big statement of like, because the way they would come into the conversation, so tell me your why. And it's like, okay, well, wait, what if I haven't thought about it? And you giving me all this pressure, like I have to know exactly what it is, and I gotta drill it down, dot all the I's and cross all the T's. And so I don't want you guys to think that hard about what your why is. Some of our whys are very simple. Some of our whys are extravagant, long, years long, sentences long, right? But that's your own individual why. And so holding on to that, we've been through quite a bit. This year, people thought we were back face to face. We were back in the office, back doing things that things were going to be easy. But I'm sure at some of your centers, they haven't been. I know at my organization, they haven't been. And so it's hard to hold on to that why sometimes when life just keeps on going, life just keeps on moving. We're dealing with humans, we're dealing with factors we can't control. And so it's hard to hold on to that why. And so today, let's talk about it. Let's figure out how we hold on to our own personal whys, not the whys of our coworkers and everybody else, but our own personal whys. So as I've said, I'm Waukesha. I'm graduated from Sam Houston State University with my undergrad, and then just last night, Texas Women's University with my master's in business administration with a concentration in human resource management. And so while I've said this a couple of times, I have the book sense, but I think what gives me the space to share today is the experience. For about 11 years, I've worked in the nonprofit sector. So I'm currently the deputy director of a nonprofit organization where I have to often hold on to my why, like why I showed up today, like what's my goal here today, and why I keep driving in this parking lot, backing up, getting out, and walking through the door, right? And being in leadership and being your own business owner, or being that support to the business, it can be draining and it can take a lot out of you. But know that your why matters. What you doing matters. Why you park your car and get out of it and go in the door, it all matters. And so this is who I am. I'm this bubbly person all the time. So yeah, that's me. Today, I want you guys to use Zoom as best we can. So use your reaction buttons. This is a dialogue, so it's not me doing all the talking. I'll do majority of it, but it is going to be times where I'll prompt you guys to come off of mute or share in the chat. What everybody has to say is valuable, and that's one of my things as a leader that I promote with my team. Nobody's experience is less of value than anybody else's. And so please be willing to share. You never know what you share may invigorate someone or may enlighten someone or help them be able to carry that torch just a little bit longer. Okay. So be willing to be vulnerable. This is a safe space for us to do that. And so let's jump into the think tank. I love y'all think tank Thursdays. I just absolutely love it. And that think tank, like let's just think. And we in a tank, we together. And today is Thursday. I absolutely love it. Okay. So, what our objective is for today to connect the importance of holding on to your own individual why, the importance of establishing, confirming, and living out our personal mission statement. And we'll kind of do a little activity that kind of helps you think about what your mission statement. When we're working and professional, sometimes the mission statement of where we work or what we do becomes our mission statement. But me stepping out on faith and starting the Me Project was me separating what my why was from my organization. I had been there 11 years. And so I've been there going on 11 years. And so much of the information and what I was saying about that agency and all of that became this why I'm doing what I'm doing, when ultimately I had my own mission statement and my own goals that I wanted to accomplish. And so we have to be careful that when we latch on to the business mission or vision statement, we take that on as our own, and we can lose our own personal why, our own personal mission statement. And so we'll do an activity where we kind of talk about how you pull that out for yourself. So we're going to do an icebreaker. Everybody knows me, knows I love icebreakers. Hope you do too. Then we're going to talk about what is a why, what is your why, staying connected to the why. And then the flip part we're going to go to is how you, the why part, when I talked about the other things, is managing burnout, self-care, and stress. Okay. So the icebreaker, what does your name stand for? What, oh, that is a, okay. That's supposed to be, what do you stand for? Okay, so we're going old school real quick. So if everybody, I hope you have a piece of paper at your desk or right next to you. I want you to write your name out. So like right under each other. So mine, it's Waukesha, so it'll be W first, then right underneath that will be Y. I want us to go old school. Y'all know when we used to be in, some of us still do it today. Sometimes I do it, and I'm going to tell you guys why. So write out your name, and then with writing out your name, I want you to write a word that describes who you are with that particular letter. Okay. So for me, W, I would put witty. I like to think I am. So, okay. So I'm gonna take a few seconds for you guys to do that. I know some people's names, like mine, is a little longer than everybody else's. And then after we do that, I want to see if I can get maybe one or two people to share with me. Or not with me, share with the group. All right, anybody want to go?
I'll go.
I will. Oh,
All right, let's hear.
All
I
right,
take both
hopefully
you
you can
guys.
hear me. I've got some construction going on. My name is Sean, and I stand for silliness, happy, awake, reckless, and naughty.
Oh, okay. All right, Sean, naughty Sean. Okay. All right, I can dig it. Okay. All right. And who's the, I think it was another person that said they'd go.
I will. I'll go.
Okay.
My name is Tina, and I'm a thinker. I'm impactful. I'm nice, and I'm amazing.
All right. I love that. I love that. So the reason I wanted you guys to do this, what does your name stand for? What do you stand for? Because so much of the world can consume us and try to reshape us and put us in spaces that we don't necessarily want to be. And so what does your name represent and how do you see yourself helps to indicate and help you identify what your why is. And so for me, sometimes when I tried to say, you know, we did old school, but I had to be honest to say sometimes I still do it. Sometimes we have to go back to that bottom line of who we are and how we see ourselves. Because society, the world, our workplace, our family, our friends, can sometimes shape us and try to make us feel a different way than the root and the basic piece and the foundation piece of who we are. And so if you ever get into a space where it's like, I'm trying to figure out why I'm doing what I'm doing, sometimes I really just go to, let me write out Waukesha. And it brings me back and it centers me into who I am, what impact I want to do, what I see for myself, and how I see myself. Because in order to establish and know what your why is, you got to also know who you are. Because you'll allow outside factors to consume you and change all of that. And I keep saying that because I want you guys to be aware that we have to protect ourselves. We have to set those boundaries because the outside world can definitely do that. And so stay solid in what your foundation is of who you are, and discovering what your why is and holding on to what your why is. You got to know who you are. And when we don't know who we are, we got to do some digging and we got to do some discovering and some finding what that is. And lucky for you, that is part of what the Me Project does as well. And so we do one-on-ones. We do it in a group setting. If it's like your workplace that needs that, we can absolutely sit down and help you identify like who you are. Why are you here? What's your goal, purpose, and how you really envision and see yourself? Okay, so I want, if you participated in it, I still got mine. Let me see. I did this at work one time and I actually framed it and I still have it. And so I encourage you to keep it, hold on to it. It may change next month, right? Or even next year, but it gives you something to go back to and look at. And so I don't want you guys to be like, oh, okay, I did the icebreaker, ball it up, throw it in the trash. Hold on to it. Hold on to that too, because that's part of how you see yourself and where you see yourself. Okay. So what is a why? Anybody want to drop in the chat? When people say, what is your why? What do you think? What comes to mind for you? Let me pull up the chat so I can see it. Okay. Okay. Don't have anything yet. Purpose. Okay. Question mark your purpose. Reason to doing things. Legacy for my children. Okay. Vision or purpose. Passion. Oh, that's a good one. Invest in myself. Okay. It's a question. Okay. All right. So for true enough, when people ask the why, that is like a, tell me why you're doing something. I'm sorry, I see a hand. Abby did, oh, okay, she took it down. I wasn't sure. Responsibility, right? So when some people say why, it is a question of like, why are you doing something? Yes, but at the root of it, what is a why? It is, what is your sense of purpose? And a lot of people said that in the chat. So to know what your why is, it's really, what is your sense of purpose? When people are asking even, why did you do something? Like, why did you do that? Why did you go down the street? Why did you go visit that? What was your purpose in doing it? And so when you're holding on to your why and you're trying to reframe or refocus what your why is, go back to the sense of purpose. What's the purpose in me doing this? What do I want the outcome of this to be? Okay. And so when we talk about purpose, even in that, some people are like, okay, well, what's purpose? Like what really is purpose? It's another word, you know, people throw around the why, people throw around the word purpose. You got to know what your purpose is. You got to know this, right? But we sometimes don't stop to spend the time to make sure everybody understands that. We want people to know what their purpose is, but we have to spend the time and explaining and helping them be aware of really what purpose is. And I'm only before you guys for a little bit of time, so I can't dive as deep into it. But when we're talking about the purpose, what's your sense of purpose? What is purpose? Purpose is the reason for which something is done or created, or for which something exists. So I underline and bolded why something is done and why does it exist. That's the root of what purpose is. So my purpose is why, with the Me Project, why am I doing it and why does it exist? what do we ultimately want? What do I ultimately want to get out of it? And then the second part of what is purpose is have as one's intention or objective. So what's the intent, right? If you're just doing something to be doing something, really is that, I want you to think about, is that really what your purpose is? Because if I'm just doing it to do it, or if I'm just doing it to get a check, right? That's the intent, right? You need money to be able to pay your bills, right? But it's bigger than that. Your purpose is bigger than just a checkbox to pay bills, right? Just a checkbox to say, I got a job. Just a checkbox to say, hey, I'm moving and doing something in life. But really, which is something, what is done or created, or for which something exists, and one's intention or objective. Does your purpose match up with what your true intent is? So my intent is to share space, common space with people, help them reach their fullest potential or joy. That's my intention, and that's my objective. And that leads to my purpose, and it helps connect to what my why is. So why did I get up, right, today? No matter what I celebrated yesterday. So why did I get up today and come before you and share the space and time? Because I have an intention and I have an objective, right? I have a purpose. That's my why. And so as you're holding on to it, know what your intent is and know what the objective is. And when you've lost sight of that, that's a clear picture that you've probably lost a little bit of probably your purpose and a little bit of your why. But even though you may have lost it, it doesn't mean that it's lost forever, because we have time to be able to regain some of that and gain our footing and gain our foundation back. And so I want you guys to know what purpose is so that you can then connect it to what your why is. So tips to finding your purpose. So these are 3 things that I developed and came up with that I have to live by in finding what my purpose is. And so the first one is release assumptions. I don't know, sometimes some people walk around saying, I don't assume anything. I'm not going to call those people storytellers, but I think we all have that piece where we assume something, right? We're assuming either the worst or we're assuming the overly good. We have an assumption about something. And so in order to really dive deep into what your purpose is, you got to be willing to release assumptions. Assumptions about what you think it's going to look like, assumptions about what everybody else may feel it's going to look like. Release those assumptions, okay? The next one is release others' expectations. And that was a big one for me when I decided to take a leap of faith and was like, girl, go and do it. Like, what you holding back for? I had to release others' expectations of me and what they felt my capability was. I knew what my why was and what my purpose was. And I had to be true to who I was. And so you have to release what others expect of you. And sometimes those other expectations are negative expectations. I'm not going to sit on this Zoom and sharing training and not acknowledge that some of us have been put in spaces where we've been criticized. We've been questioned about who we are, why we do what we do. And I know for some of our business owners and leaders on here, some people may have questioned your leap of faith in doing what you do. But when you release others' expectations and step out on what it is of what you see for yourself, you're able to come into your own of what your purpose and what your why is. And the last big one that I think gets people all the time, it tries to sneak up on me every day. Okay, I have to kick it off. I have to talk to myself. I have to pull out my Waukesha, right? Because it tries to keep a hold, but it's release of fear. So walking in your purpose and really identifying that is releasing the fear of what you think is going to happen, right? It's the fear of I'm not good enough. It's the fear of ain't nobody going to show up on the training. It's the fear of nobody's going to believe in what I'm doing. But the root of it is you have to believe in yourself. We cannot live in the assumptions and the expectations of others, and we definitely can't live in the fear that we create for ourselves. One of the things that I had to identify on why I didn't necessarily start the Me Project as quick as I should have, or as soon as I should have, mine was fear. Because I was like, ain't nobody gonna believe in what I'm doing. Ain't nobody gonna show up. Ain't nobody gonna do nothing. Right? I was sitting in that seat doing all of this work that I do for the aid. Now they do pay me. My job does pay me. Okay. I'm not doing it for free. But at the end of the day, I was scared to leap out on what my own qualities were and not attaching it to the nonprofit. Right? It was the fear of me separating from something that had been solid for me and being willing to maybe get on a little bit of shaky ground initially to truly discover and find my purpose and my why. Okay, so I want you guys to remember those three: release the assumptions, release others' expectations, and ultimately release the fear. Okay. So, think tank, anyone want to share anything they had to release to reach or understand their purpose? Those were my three. Does anybody want to share maybe one? You can drop it in the chat. If it's something you had to release. Or if you want to come off of mute. Procrastination. Oh, ain't that a good one? Oh my God. Oh, it's bad. Oh, my, it can be so bad sometimes. Oh, okay, Stephanie, I want you to know that you are smart enough. You are smart enough, and I'm glad you released it. Feeling I need to be perfect all the time. Good. Self-judgment. Great. Those are good. And even though we've released those things, I want you guys to be aware that they can try to creep back up in those spaces where they can make us second guess what we're doing. Like I told you guys, I've been doing what I do for a long time with the nonprofit I work at, but coming and doing it on my own, it's like it finds a little hole and it's like, oh, I got a pocket. I'm gonna crawl up in there. And so you have to be aware of what your what's the word I'm looking for? What your barriers are sometimes. Be aware of what those are so that when they show themselves, right, you can immediately try to overcome that, right? I like to believe that I got a negative in my head, but I can overcome that negative if I just think positive real quick. If I not live in that negative space. So as you're coming up with your why and coming up with your purpose, that negativity is gonna creep up in your head as you're trying to hold on to it, right? As you losing staff, as you got kids maybe unenrolling in the center, or it may not be booming as fast or as big as you want it to be, as that negativity tries to creep up in your head, I want you to overcome it with the positive, right? You're doing something somebody else hasn't done, right? You're doing things that people wish maybe they had the courage to do. And so never self-doubt yourself in that. Never let those barriers overtake you and overcome you. All right. I appreciate you guys participating in the chat. These are some good ones. And know that people are reading the chat. And so my hopes is that what you may be struggling with, that you'll read and see that somebody may have had that same issue. And they're now maybe on the other side of it. And so connecting with somebody who may be where you are or where you have been is important and vital for us growing and staying connected to our purpose and staying connected to our why. All right. So activity. Oh my God, activity. Okay. So remember I talked about we were going to kind of talk about or look at our own why or our own kind of mission or vision, whatever we want for ourselves. So here is just really small. So 2, what's the contribution? So that, what do you want the impact to be? So the contribution is what you are going to do. And the impact is what do you want the desired outcome to be? So I'm going to show you guys it again. 2, what are you going to do? Your impact is the desired outcome. So my contribution is to create safe spaces and dialogue so that people can reach their fullest potential of joy, right? It's very simple. Mine is very simple. So I try to create the spaces like this, or, independent of Collaborative for Children, when, the Me Project may do something live, but it's whatever. So creating spaces, safe spaces for people to share common experiences, both personal and professional, so that we can all reach our fullest potential of joy. And so we'll kind of, as I wrap up the end, that'll be the last thing that we kind of do. So I want you guys to think about it, write it down, and I want people to be willing to be vulnerable and share what that is. Because sometimes when we know what somebody else's why and purpose is, that can help discover what we need, right? Like if I know, oh, that's your purpose, that's your why, that's mine too. Let's link up, right? Let's figure out how we push forward. Let's continue to write a different narrative for whatever, okay? So remember, 2, contribution, so that what do you want the impact to be? So even though we talked about the purpose and the why, I wanted to segue into what causes loss of purpose. So the holding on to it can be hard when we have the pandemic. I know for me, we were losing staff, right? And we wasn't able to hire nobody. So it was like, is anybody looking for a job, right? And it was like, we can't do it. If one person can't do all the jobs, one person can't wear all the hats. And so contributors that I couldn't control often would put me in a space of, I'm losing my purpose on what I'm supposed to be doing here, because it isn't looking how I thought it should look, or it isn't feeling how I thought it should feel. And so what causes the loss of purpose? Assumptions of others, expectations, and fear. If we go back to the things we needed to release, those things can also cause our loss of purpose. The self-doubt, the not thinking we're good enough, family criticism. If we go back to some of the things we have to release, remember I said it can creep on up in there. Those are the things that can make us lose our sense of purpose of what we're really trying to, what our bigger why and bigger goal is. And bigger than that is something that most struggle with every year, every month, every day. It's pieces of life that we don't necessarily think about. And it's the self-care and burnout. Those are big things that make us lose our why. We can get so focused on taking care of the center, right? We can get so focused on making sure all of these things are done. But now we're burnt out. Or I haven't done any type of self-care. And I know people get tired of hearing the word burnout and self-care, but it's real, guys. It is real. If we don't take care of self, if we don't catch up and watch for those burnout moments, you're going to lose your purpose. You're not going to be able to hold on to that why, because you're exhausted, you're tired. Your capacity is your tolerance. That's what it is. Your tolerance is very short and very limited, right? When we don't take care of ourselves and don't evaluate that burnout. And so I want to dive into some of the causes for the loss of purpose. So the first one I want to talk about is burnout. So drop in the chat how you know you've reached burnout, if you ever have. And I'm asking that because I don't think some people don't know. I didn't realize what burnout was until I was working in the professional world. I didn't realize what my burnout was until I was a couple of years in the professional working environment. It's because I'm like, what's going on with me? But not knowing that I've reached a burnout. So I want people to drop in the chat, or like I said, you can come off of mute. How you know you've reached burnout? What does that look like for you? Being aware of self, being aware of what's going on around you in your space. Let's see what we got. Not talking, okay. I was not taking a break on myself, okay. When I start to shake, okay. The office door stays closed, that's a good one, okay. When everything upsets easily. Irritability, right? It's like everything irritates. I can be like that too. I have to say, y'all, not this week, okay? Not this week. check back in with me on next Monday. I'll probably be in a different space, but that's being self-aware and being vulnerable. Because sometimes in burnout, what we'll do, we'll keep going, we'll keep pushing because the job got to get done. But what I want you to hear in, you still pressing toward the mark, you still pushing forward, knowing you're irritable, knowing you got your door closed all the time, know that you're not communicating effectively. That creates a shift and a dynamic in the leadership role that you're responsible for. It creates a negative impact for those who you're responsible for, right? And so because you feel like can't nothing go on without you being there, that's part of it. If we can get honest, that's part of it. You feel like this boat can't rock unless I'm here helping give the instructions. The space that you're shifting is creating a space that's going to create a negativeness in the environment for other people. And so when you're at your burnout, you got to recognize and be aware of what that is so that you can take a time out and a step back so that you aren't shifting the atmosphere, shifting the work environment for somebody else. I tell staff all the time, and I tell people that I come in contact with, we're responsible for ourselves and what we put out, right? And so if you already know you at that mark, like I'm at my limit, go and take off, go and step away, or you can be vulnerable with the people that you're working with. I try to be. If I know I'm in a space, I'll tell, listen, y'all, I'm in a space right now. If you need me, I'm here in my office, but y'all probably gonna see a little shift, but it has nothing to do with you, right? So it's being transparent and being vulnerable, okay? So that people don't lose focus of what their why is because you at a burnout, okay? Okay, so what is burnout? The technical, a state of physical or emotional exhaustion that involves a sense of reduced accomplishment and loss of personal identity. Okay, it's a physical or emotional exhaustion. So that low energy, sometimes you feel it in your body, right? Oh, I'm sore, I'm tired, my legs. And you're like, I ain't gonna work out this week. What's going on? It's your body trying to tell you something's off. We don't listen enough to our feelings. We also don't listen enough to our bodies. And so I want to encourage you that you be in tune, right? And aware, self-aware of what you show up to the table with and how you show up to the table, okay? So burnout is defined by 3 components: emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, and decrease of sense of accomplishment, okay? So when those 3 things are maybe happening, you probably reached the burnout. But as leaders, sometimes we can also see that in the staff we work with. And so as leaders in the room, if you see that with your staff, you got to be willing to pull them to the side, right? Hey, what's going on? It's okay to do a check-in because sometimes some people are looking for their check-in. They're not going to be honest and say that they are, but they're looking to see if somebody notices. And if you notice, it's okay. And remember, leadership isn't about the position. So it doesn't have to be the supervisor. Like me and Kathy over here talking it up, girl, something's going on, something a little off, right? So it's not the supervisor's responsibility, but if we see it with each other, right? If we go in a tactful way, we can help people try to manage that burnout or help take on some of the load sometimes. It's okay to do that. And so I want to give you guys a few statistics. So before the pandemic, 76% of workers reported burnout sometimes. That's a big percentage. So while we think everybody's showing up to work, jingling their keys, coming in, smiling, some of them are at burnout. But that goes back to what I was saying earlier, where we feel like we got to show up. We feel like we got to be there. I got to be present. I told one of the people that I supervise, I said, I compliment this agency, right? This agency can continue to move on with or without me. I just compliment it while I'm here. And so if we think of ourselves as I'm the complement, right? So if I step away, it's still going to function. right? You don't have to be all the things. You're not all the things, right? We bring our own set of qualities, but we don't have to be the it for everything. The next statistics was 28%, and this was before the pandemic. 28% of workers reported burnout always or often at work. And so this was before the pandemic. If we think about currently, I'm sure, because there are many organizations, many businesses who are still, I would say, in the pandemic. They are still in those spaces. And so if these were the numbers before, we have to recognize that we probably are sitting next to someone, interacting with someone, sharing space with someone who's probably at their burnout. And sometimes we have to be responsible for, how do I check in, right? How do we reshift this? How do we recircle this, recenter it? Okay. So employees suffering burnout are 68% more likely to take a sick day. They are. 50% as likely to discuss how to approach performance with their manager. 23% more likely to visit an emergency room. It's 2.6 times as likely to be actively seeking a different job. That's a big one for me, because when we don't stop to address the burnout, we got people who are leaving, and we already know it's hard to get good qualified people in the door. And so if we don't address the burnout, then what's going to happen? You back seeking somebody else, or now you at burnout because you got to run that person's position. But if we create the spaces and create the conversations for people to feel comfortable, it can shift the trajectory, oh my God, of people's burnout, okay? And the last one is 13% less confident in their performance. So you may be thinking they may be doing a good job. They don't feel that they are because they're at burnout, or they're not doing a good job. And so as leaders in the room, or as supervisors, managers, directors, before we become critical or criticize, we may have to evaluate, is this person at a spot, right? Is this person at a place of burnout? If their quality of work has possibly been something different than what it's showing today, you may have to do a check-in. Sometimes it's the easiest part to go to, oh, they just, they're not invested no more. They're not working out. That's the easy thing to do. But I don't know about y'all, but training takes up way too much time and too much resources, right? And so when we see people at that point of it's a shifting to be a little different than what it's usually been, Waukesha, let's pull them in for a conversation, because it may be that they're at burnout, or it may be some other factors that are going on that we have to talk about and address. All right, so what are signs of burnout in the workplace? So signs, criticism, y'all kind of dropped this in the chat. Criticism, and it's criticism both ways. Let's say that. So criticism can be on themselves, and the criticism can be with others. So, girl, that wasn't that good. It was all right. Because internally, they're already struggling with their own lack of feeling like they're good enough in that space. Or remember, if we go back, it's their own productivity that may be low. And so they're going to be very critical sometimes of other people, the irritability, impatience, low productivity, fatigue, lack of concentration. And so these are signs to look for within yourself, but also looking for that within your staff of it may be happening. I found a couple of these to be true when I pull people in to say, hey, tell me what's going on. Like, you're not dotting all the I's, crossing all the T's, something seeming a little off. And typically they've reached the like, I need to tap out for a little bit. And it's okay to tap out. We can't force people to always be tapped in. That's just unrealistic. That's an unrealistic expectation. Some people need that, tap me out. Let me take a break. Let me regroup. Okay. Other signs, lack of empathy. They lack empathy for your parents. They lack empathy for the kids. They lack empathy for coworkers. Like, no, ain't nobody getting a pass, right? They lack the empathy. Unfair treatment. unmanageable workload, unclear expectations, unreasonable time pressure, and lack of autonomy. So these are all signs of when someone has probably experienced or is experiencing burnout in the workplace.
You're not going anywhere. I'm telling you, you're not going there.
So what can you do to reduce or prevent burnout? Again, remember I said it's probably things you already have heard, but I'm gonna say them to you again because I care about each and every person on here. And I think you guys all have your own individual purpose and own individual why. And to do that, we have to be willing to look at and examine ourselves to make sure that we can hold on to that. So you want to take time away from work. I've gotten better at it. Before I would have like hours on hours stacked of PTO time because I felt like I needed to be present. Like I had to be here to make sure everything went. But now I take my time off. And when I take my time off and step away, I'm actually more effective with my team. I'm actually more effective with processes. I'm more effective with my communication because I've taken a breather. I've taken a step outside of the day-to-day, the in it, the push down on it. Like I've taken a step away. Establish healthy boundaries. All of us have had an unhealthy boundary somewhere or another, or we may still have some. Check those. Check your unhealthy boundaries. Outside reinforcements, positive social interaction. Have your space outside of the job, right? Some of the people who I love today and are like family to me are people who I've met at work. So I'm not saying don't have those relationships, but you want to have positive social interaction outside of work as well. Work can't be your only go-to all the time. It can't be. Or it can't be what you talk about on the phone as soon as you leave. Because we got those people who they talk about it at work. Then as soon as they leave work, they get on the phone and they talking about it. It's just a constant. So you wonder why when you get to work or now we at burnout, is because that's the constant of what you're talking about or what your interaction may be. And the common ones are exercise, breathe, sometimes power everything down, close Outlook, close whatever, and just sit and be with self and just breathe, right? Laughter and having workplace support. It's okay to have that work buddy, right? Your work bestie. It's okay to have that. So that you can know you got somebody you can lean on or go to. And then as leaders, how do we create that space where we have the workplace support for staff? Which then drives me to, I'm sorry, the big one I forgot. What can you do to reduce or prevent burnout? Reward yourself. You're doing great, right? You showing up, reward yourself. We get so consumed with sometimes showing the praise to other people that we forget to love on ourselves. We forget to pat our own selves on the back. We forget to go back to when I had you guys write out your name, we forget to go back to those things that make us special. So reward yourself. Don't get so caught up in the burnout. Don't get so caught up in the day-to-day that you forget to reward yourself. Pat yourself on the back again. You showed up today. You showed up probably yesterday. You're probably going to show up tomorrow and the next week and the week after that. And so it's important that we're kind to ourselves. I try to tell leaders that all the time. Be kind to yourself. Give yourself grace. Right? Nobody's perfect. No day is going to be perfect, but I want you guys to hold on to that, rewarding yourself. It's important to reward others, but it's also important to acknowledge your greatness and also be aware of what you bring to the table and how you show up in your best self and that you're doing the best that you can. All right, so what can leadership do to reduce or prevent burnout? Make well-being part of the organizational culture. So we want to come with the rules, we want to come with the policies and the guidelines, and we want to make sure everybody is stickler for that. But as people who are in a leadership role, you want to make the culture of your organization about people's well-being. Part of the things that I tell the staff that I directly supervise is, I want you to be well. Yes, I want you to make sure that the clients have what they need. I want you to make sure operations keep going, for sure. But at the root of it, I want you to be well, because you can't be well for the clients and for the staff you have to supervise if you're not okay. And so you have to be willing to create that space for, if people are not okay, that it's okay. It's okay to not be okay. It's not a cliche statement. It really should be something we govern and live by. So you equip managers to prevent worker burnout. So what that means is helping them create processes within their programs or things that they supervise, help them to evaluate. I'm all about program evaluation. And so what are some things that could be done differently or that can shift? Just because we've always done it this way doesn't mean we have to continue to do it that way, because it may be creating the burnout, right? Design positive employee experience to reduce burnout. People should like coming to work. They should. And if people do not like coming to your center, or if people do not like coming to your organization or your business, that's something to step away and look at. You have to create the positive experience. Every day not going to be the best day. Get that. But for the majority of the time, people should enjoy the space where they work. They should. You want to conduct surveys regularly, agency-wide, to identify any trends, okay? So many times we just go off of, well, if it's something wrong, come tell me. If they don't tell me, then everything must be great. But how do you know that that person feels like it's a safe space for them to do that? They may not, right? And so you want to create a way for them to be able to vocalize and share what it is that they may be feeling, so that you can notice trends of things you may have to correct. Have an open door policy, create a list of other social service nonprofits for employees to access. And so things that are low cost. So I said nonprofits because some of those are free for employees. So it's other things that they may need. So if it's you create resources for them about financial literacy, about mental health, whatever that may be, you can create something to say, hey, here's something available for you if you're experiencing any of these things, because sometimes it's other factors that play into our burnout. And so you can provide those resources to your staff. And what that says for them, and what I've gained from employees, what it says is that you care about them holistically, not just them showing up to be able to take care of the kiddos or open the doors for the center or make the phone calls, that you care about them holistically. And then the last one is build a framework that allows employees to offer support. Again, sometimes people need those work buddies and work besties. And so create the framework to where people know that they can depend on each other. If they can't always depend on you as the leader or the manager or supervisor, that they know they have team support, right? That they know that if this is a lot for me, I can probably shift this to somebody else and they got my back. They're going to make sure they don't drop the ball or fumble it, right? Because I know I'm in a place. So these are things to where you as in leadership can help to prevent burnout. So the next we're going to jump to, and I know we're kind of winding down to the 45-minute time. So self-care. So what is self-care? Self-care means taking time to do things you enjoy, not the work enjoy. I do love what I do too, but that's not what self-care is. It's things outside of what you do for work, and doing things that you enjoy, that make you smile, make you feel great, make you feel good on the inside. It's doing those things, okay? So I wanted to talk about just 3 self-care tips. Set specific self-care goals. So when I'm saying specific, it's difficult to follow through with vague goals, such as I'll take more time for self-care. I don't know about y'all, but it's been a statement of mine. I'm gonna take more time for self-care, and I leave that thing right there. But having specific goals, right? So try to say something such as, I will walk for 30 minutes every evening after dinner. Or once a month, I will go to the movies, versus the I will take more time for self-care. So it's being specific about what your goal is and what you're going to do. Okay. The next one is set boundaries to protect your self-care. So you don't need a major obligation to say no. Okay, that's a boundary. Some people are those yes people. Okay, yes, I'll do it. Knowing you didn't already say yes to 5 other people, but because you just cannot say no, you didn't took on a whole nother thing. Your self-care is reason enough to tell people no. Okay, that's setting the boundary to protect your own self-care. And some self-care is better than no self-care. And I wanted that to be last because just a few minutes of self-care is better than no self-care. Set an alarm to remind you to take regular breaks, even if it's just a walk around the office, right? Or even if it's just a walk around the parking lot, just to take a minute, a step away, get some fresh air, refocus, right? So when we don't do anything, and I know when people talk about self-care, you guys have probably heard of people giving these big things, take a vacation. Okay, well, you got to save for a vacation. I got to have time off for a vacation. I got to plan it. That can be a lot all in itself, right? But those small things can amount to a big impact for your self-care. And so I want you guys to walk away today coming up with specific self-care goals, because that's going to help you hold on to your purpose and hold on to your why. I don't know about you guys, but towards the end of the year and the beginning of the year, business just takes a life of its own. It just does what it wants to do, right? And so we have to be specific about how to care for ourselves and how to make sure we don't go with where everything else is flooding, right? Set boundaries to protect yourself. Be okay with saying no. No is it's perfectly fine. Your self-care is way more important. And do something versus not doing anything. Okay. So here is a self-care wheel, and I'll just drop it in the chat after I wrap up. And so this is a self-care wheel. So how can you self-care physically, psychologically, emotionally, spiritual, personal, and professional? And so I'll drop that in the chat for you guys to look at. You can share it with your team. Information that I share with you guys is the goal, is that we're sharing it with each other to create different experiences. And so I'll drop it in the chat after we're done, but this is the self-care wheel. And so the last thing we're going to talk about is stress management. So stress management, here are a few tips. We all get stressed. It happens. That's what operating a business or working for a business, it's going to happen. So stress isn't always a bad thing. Okay. Be willing to talk about what you're stressed about. And sometimes it's people, and that's perfectly fine, right? But be willing to talk about it. Be willing to put words to what your stress is. Be willing to be vulnerable, because what you may be stressing about, somebody can help you with. Or what you may be stressing about, you probably ain't even supposed to be doing, right? So be willing to vocalize it and talk about it. Prioritize your responsibilities. And by that, prioritizing your responsibilities, what are the things that you are directly supposed to be doing, that you are responsible for, and prioritizing those. We can get caught up when we're saying yes to everybody. All of those yeses turn into other people's responsibilities that we now take on as our own. But the important thing to prioritize is your responsibilities. What are you responsible for? If you've taken care of everything you're responsible for and all of those things check off, whatever, then great, you may have space to say yes to other people or to prioritize some of their things. But we become stressed when we take on too much and we take on other people's too much, right? And so prioritize what your responsibilities are. Focus on the basics. And so by focusing on the basics is some of those foundation things. So going back to what your foundation is, not necessarily trying to always be an overachiever or an overcritical thinker, but really focusing on what some of those basics are and foundational pieces of your work and who you are. And my biggest thing is keep things in perspective. Um, Sometimes our brains and our thinkings, I know somebody said in the chat that they were an overthinker, been there, sometimes still try to reside there. But we have to put things into a realistic perspective. And so when we're stressed, we can go off to unrealistic expectations sometimes, or we don't even have an expectation. But when you put things into a real true life perspective, it allows you to see things sometimes in a different lens, come from a different viewpoint, but keeping those things in a realistic perspective is important. All right, so here is a think tank, and that's kind of all the information that I wanted to share with you guys. We're at the think tank portion where I wanted to see if anybody came up with their why. So if we go back to, let me see. The two, what was the contribution? So that the impact. If I could get maybe 2 or 3 people to share what they came up with, if you're willing, that would be great. And then the other think tank I want you guys to think about is anyone that wants to share what they personally do for self-care and stress management and how that has improved your quality of life and work balance. Because remember, my why is creating a safe space and dialogue for people to reach their fullest potential of joy. And so sometimes to reach that fullest potential of joy for other people is we have to be willing to share. And so if anybody wants to share what their why was, the statement to come up with, and then anything that you do personally for self-care and stress management that has improved your quality of work balance.
Okay, I will share my self-care.
Okay.
All right, this is LaRonda, and I'm trying to see if I can show it to y'all. I invested in a massage chair, and that has improved the quality of my life because sometimes I don't have time to go out and get a massage or something like that. And so this has helped me because if I'm stressed or whatever, I can just go into my office, get in my massage chair, light my candle, and it has really helped me. So that's what I did.
Oh, that's good, LaRonda. Thank you for sharing that. Like, good point. We don't have the time to jump in the car, go down to massage, and well, first call and schedule, take the time to schedule, then get in the car, drive down to massage and get a massage. Sometimes we have to bring that self-care to us, right? So I think that's really good. Thank you for sharing that, LaRonda, where you just created the space and like, if I gotta be in here, then I'm just gonna create the space to meet what I need so that I can self-care for myself and make sure that I can show up as my best self. Thank you for sharing it. I appreciate it. I heard the massage chairs are nice too.
Yes, they are. And this is a nice one.
Oh,
So it
and
had a
invest
nice
in
little price,
yourself.
but it was an investment.
It
but
was
good.
it was worth it. We have to be willing to invest in ourselves to make sure that we're showing up as our best self. So if it was pricey, it must be worth it. You smiling and you laughing, LaRonda. So I'm gonna take it that the massage chair is doing what it's supposed to be doing.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anybody else want to share?
I'd
Those
like
of
to
you
share
who know
myself
me,
here.
sorry,
Go ahead.
those of you who know me know that I'm a little bit bougie, but my hair is my self-care. I go and get my hair done quite often, all the bright colors, all the things to my hair that I can do. My nails, my mani-pedis are up there, and I leave work to do that. Those are the only times I leave work mainly. I mean, but yes, those are that's my me time. That fills my cup every time.
Good, good. And I love how you said fills your cup. We have to know what fills our cup because the cup becomes empty, whether we're pouring out of it or if somebody's stuck in a straw and taking their own gulp, right? We have to fill our own cup up. So thank you, Sean, for sharing that. Thank you so much. I think somebody else said they wanted to share theirs.
I would like to share my self-care. My husband and I, we go on vacation or try to take a vacation. Well, we do now every 3 months. If it's just 3 days, twice out of the year is 2 days, and twice out of the year it's a whole week. And once we go on vacation, I do absolutely nothing. So that's just to relax, and I call it a hard reset. To get ready for what's coming the next week or the next few months. So that's my self-care.
Good. Oh, I know that's good. Yes. I like a good getaway too. I like a good getaway. So good. I'm glad you guys are enjoying that.
Yeah, we usually get away to to the country and to ranches where there's hundreds of acres of land and nobody's there but us.
Oh, get peaceful,
no-
ain't being bothered. Yes.
No
Yes.
ambulance, no loud noises. It's just quiet and nature.
Oh, good, good. Oh, good. Y'all have one coming up soon?
Yes, ma'am. For the Christmas
Okay.
holiday.
Oh, well, y'all enjoy. Y'all enjoy. Y'all enjoy.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, someone said their back porch is my quiet self-care place. Deep breathing, coffee in the morning, watch and listen to the birds. I didn't realize, I forgot, I went somewhere and it was just like the sound of nature had gave me such a soothing. I didn't realize that was soothing for me until I had experienced it. But it is so true. Like just listening to the birds, just nature, just sitting with self and being quiet and listening to the world. It can be soothing. It can be soothing. Thank you for sharing that one in the chat. Coloring with a margarita or rosé. A margarita on deck is always great. It's always great. Okay, painting, taking a walk. Oh, that closing my center for the entire week of Thanksgiving for myself and my staff to reset. I'm sure that was a sacrifice, and I'm sure that they appreciated it. So thank you for identifying that was something that was probably needed and you being willing to take a leap out there. So thank you for doing that. Okay, did anybody have a why before we wrap up and close out? Did anybody create their why? If you didn't, that's okay. You still have time. I just want you guys to identify what that is, because when I know what my why is, when I identified what my why was and what my purpose is, when life's imbalance likes to come my way, when the stress of being a parent, a business owner, a working professional, it helps me be able to get back to what I want to do, what's my true impact I really want to have happen. And so if you don't know what that is, I encourage you guys to spend some time really figuring that out, especially before we go into the new year. We come up with all the New Year's resolutions, but I don't want it to be a New Year's resolution. I want it to be a continued solution for you to know what your purpose is, know what your why, discovering what that is, and you taking full ownership and advantage of that and walking and leading in it. And so before we wrap up, did anybody have any questions? No? If not, thank you guys so much for the time. I love sharing with Collaborative for Children and each of you all here that joins to listen to me and hear what I have to say. My hopes is that the training, though, it, again, may have been something that you've heard, that it was also just a moment to pause and say, hey, I can maybe get a little better at that, or I maybe need to step away, or whatever that may be, or helping you identify holding on to your why or discovering what your why and your purpose. And so know that you matter. Know that at the root of it, what you bring to the table is needed, regardless of what it is. You're different from the person sitting next to you, the person sitting across from you, or the person sitting behind you. You're different. And so your quality is your quality, and it's needed for us to all function in this world. And so the last thing I want to say is let's work together. I do workshops like this for individual organizations or individual companies. So if you take a look at my website, you'll see kind of other things that I have on there. So diving into processes, organization realignment, things of that nature. Like I said, I've been in executive leadership for quite some time. I have the credentials, but the experience is what really drives home what I'm able to help bring to you or your center. I work on a collective or individual basis. So it is me. I also have a team. So I also have medical professionals that are on my team. So I have registered nurses where, you know, if you're needing to have someone come in and talk about sanitation or the importance of cleanliness, or we got the flu season, COVID hasn't still left us. And so if you need people to come and talk about those things or any of that, please know that you can reach out to the Me Project. My email is listed there as well as my website. And I'm thankful to be here with you guys. And I hope that I have enlightened you in some capacity. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Collaborative for Children. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much, Waukesha. This was more than I even expected, but I mean, I should have known. Congratulations again. I really do. We all appreciate your commitment to being on with us today. Even after this is your moment to celebrate and relish in that accomplishment. But you were committed to being on with us today and giving us an opportunity to reflect and really think about our why. As I always say, who's going to save the hero after she saves the world? So please make sure that you are prioritizing yourself. The holidays, as wonderful as it is a hard time for a lot of people. We put so many people first. We put ourselves in a bind to make other people happy. And I know that as childcare professionals, you do that for your staff, those children, and those families, and of course your community. So please make sure that you are prioritizing yourself, and that you have someone to connect with. You know, these think tanks are also an opportunity. If you see somebody in the chat and you're like, oh, I like what she has to say, send her a private message and say, girl, let's link up. Let's talk. Let's exchange numbers, something. Let that person, this complete stranger, now be your support. Go from stranger to support system. So please, please, please make sure that you take advantage of that in these trainings. We appreciate you all being on with us throughout the year. We are already gearing up for 2023. That survey is probably going up in a matter of seconds. We do have a couple of door prizes. I always forget to announce that. They send me a text and say, Ashley, don't forget to announce the door prizes at the end. And I still forgot to announce it. That's just how much my brain has going on. But it just as a, hey, thank you for being on. We want to do 2 door prizes. You have to be on in order to receive them. But this training really was gift enough, honestly. Y'all will see Waukesha next year. So make sure when you see those flyers, well, all the flyers, we want you to be on all the trainings, but I know that that you guys are always especially making sure you're getting on the trainings with her. So she will, we want her to be successful, but we don't want her to forget about us. Okay, cool. Okay, y'all heard it here first. I think she's gonna guarantee when we ask for her, she's gonna be here for us. Allison, Kay, do we have those door prize winners yet? And the survey, if y'all want to go ahead and put that up as well.
Yes.
And this, everybody is chosen at random. So it's not, we don't just say like, oh, who was holding the cute baby on the call? We literally are, it's chosen at random. So please make sure that you're completing this survey. Again, this is information that helps us. We send this to our funders, and it lets us know how we can help you. Waukesha, I just saw somebody said that stress wheel. She's gonna drop it in there, and y'all know we send this training out in a couple of days. So you'll have all of this information at your fingertips very, very soon. The survey is up on the screen. It's a QR code. If y'all will drop it in the chat as well. And then Waukesha just shared the self-care wheel. I'm going to download that myself and hone in on that personal self-care as well. All right, Allison, you ready?
Yes. We have our first winner, if she's still on, is Doris Mejia. I'll also put that in the chat. If she's still on, wave, unmute, say, speak in the chat. I think somebody might have become unmuted.
It wasn't Miss Doris. You're a little choppy, Allison. It was Doris Mejia, and she also put it in the chat. That is our first winner. Miss Doris, you got to be still on the call, or either drop in the chat and say I'm here or unmute. If not, we are going to go back to our randomizer and choose another winner. We'll give you a couple of seconds, Miss Doris. Do you have the second winner, Allison? She's choppy. It's Pamela Alvarez. Miss Pamela, are you still on the call?
Camera.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
I'm here.
Okay, Miss Pamela's here and Miss Doris. All right, perfect. So congratulations on being our 2 random door prize winners. We'll do those at the end of Think Tanks. Congratulations to you all. But again, the true prize is being on these trainings. So thank you all so much for being on with us today. We really do appreciate your time and commitment to learning and growing. The link for the survey is in the chat. It's also up on the screen, but we also send it out when we send the recording for this training as well. So you'll get it a couple of different ways and you'll have an opportunity to participate. So this is our last Think Tank of 2022, and we will start up 2023 really soon. Y'all will see the flyer come out for that. If you are in the Harlingen area, we will be on February 25th. We will be there in person for our Child Care Business Accelerator Summit. If you are in the Houston area, we will be at the Harris County Department of Education for our business symposium. We are busy. So please make sure that you are taking care of yourself. Happy holidays to all of you. Enjoy this summer, winter, fall, spring weather that we experience all in one week. Thank you all again for your commitment to yourself, to your children, families. We so appreciate y'all. We would not be successful if it were not for people like you all. So thank you again. We are going to stay on a couple more minutes in case you want to reach out to somebody in the chat and say, hey, I need you to be my support system. We'll stay on just about 2 more minutes. But again, thank you all so much. And happy holidays to each and every one of you.